Oh no.
Oh, yes. It's okay. It's part of it. It's part
Oh
of
God.
it.
Oh God.
It doesn't mean anything. It's
I'm
all
getting
right.
stage fright. You know?
It's right. Do you want me to
Got
introduce it?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna look at me. I'm gonna look at you, lady.
Yeah, here I am.
All right, so let's get started. Hello, Izabella. Well, we're not supposed to start like this, right? So
Yeah, but what are we doing here today?
We're talking to you, and we're going to learn more about your experience, you know?
Because I'm
want to know
such an interesting
everything.
person.
You're a master. You're a master. Izabella,
Hello.
I feel like I'm becoming an expert just by being close to you.
Oh, that's nice. So that means we can probably get started.
Let's try. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of CACS Stories. Today, we're talking to Izabella Gonçalves. I'm Magda, and this is another interview for your YouTube channel. Not our, right? YouTube channel. Okay.
It's yours and ours.
Okay. And today, Izabella will tell us her story about how she learned English. So let's hear Isabella's amazing story. Izabella.
Hi.
Have you always wanted to speak English?
I think so. You see, the first time I had contact with English was in the States, in Washington, D.C. I have an autistic brother, and my parents took him to see a doctor in D.C., and I went along. And, I remember...
How old were you?
I was about 4 or 5, and I remember listening, trying to understand people. I distinctively remember trying to watch the purple dinosaur. What's the name? Barney and his friends. And I loved it because, I don't know, it sounded like fun what they were doing on TV, but I couldn't understand the word, and that was really frustrating. So when we came back to Brazil a couple weeks later, I saw an ad for English classes, and I thought, oh, that's what they were speaking. They were speaking English, and then I wanted to start studying immediately. So that's when I got interested in the language. Yeah.
At the age of 4?
4 or 5, yes. But I didn't start studying immediately because my mom said, no, you're too young. I'm not going to enroll you in English classes. So
you could read by the age of 4?
No, I couldn't read. I was watching TV, so I would listen to them and try to understand, but I couldn't.
Oh, I thought you saw an ad.
No, I saw an ad later. Oh, but then I couldn't read it, but they were speaking, hey, come learn English. And then I thought, okay, that's what I'm supposed to learn.
I know you're a genius, right? But when you said that you read the ad at the age of 4.
No, I saw an ad. I didn't read
how to read. I was 7. I was a very late
No way. No. And I'm glad, because I would have hated it if I had started learning English at 5. My mom was very wise because she said, no, you're too young. You're not going to do that. And yeah, and when I actually started when I was 7, because I kept, pestering her to enroll me, I didn't like it so much because I had to go to class, and I hated it. I just wanted to go home. I liked the language, but I didn't like studying it,
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, for kids, right?
Yeah, I know. When did you start enjoying it?
Okay, so actually I've always liked the language. What I didn't like was going to school. But then when I realized that, a lot of the music I listened to was in English. I used to watch soap operas when I was a kid, but then I discovered TV series, and I never watched soap operas again because I was so into watching series, right? So when I started watching these international shows and listening to international music, that's when I thought, okay, I really need to learn this to understand the things that I like, so that's when I became really
Like Barney.
interested in it. Yeah, much later, and not like a few years later, I don't remember how long after that I would watch Barney in Brazil, right? Because in the 90s it would take a moment for things to get here, right? For TV shows and
A moment, like years.
like years, yes. So yeah, that I used to watch it here too when I was a kid, but then and then I started watching other things too.
And has it been easy for you? Would you say that this process was an easy thing, or it was something that requires dedication and some sort of, was it time consuming?
Okay, so yes and no for the easy part. No, because I wasn't great at it in the beginning. There's a learning curve when you're learning anything, and it certainly wasn't easy from the start for me. I remember and I would skip a lot of classes because I would get tired as a kid and I would
Can't
skip a lot.
imagine you. I
Yeah,
can't picture that happening. You
it would.
skipping classes? No
I would
way.
beg my mom, I don't want to go. I'm tired. And I remember some of the teachers would say, oh, I'm not even going to ask Izabella what happened last class because she probably wasn't here. And so that was like in the beginning. But then, interestingly enough, a couple of years later, I became like the best in my class, and then the best in school. And they asked me to tutor kids when I was 15.
What happened there? What was...
Yeah, so I think it just maturity. You just mature, you find things that you're interested in, and it justifies you being there, learning English. I understood why I was there, but so the easy part, because I said yes and no, right? The easy part was that first, when you start learning as a kid, you don't have a lot of things to worry about. So that helps because, right, when you like it, then you just start doing it and you have the time to dedicate. I definitely dedicated time once I realized I wanted to learn it. I used to study the material before the class, like I would read the book pages before class.
You like the feeling of being the best?
I liked it, and also I liked reading, and I liked reading things out loud. The dialogues, I would read it out loud to test my English to see if I could speak it. And I started finding parallels in the music that I liked, in the music, the song lyrics that I liked, and the things I was studying. So I remember the Backstreet Boys has a song that starts with
I was about to ask that. What song in particular was that?
I don't remember it anymore because I haven't listened to the Backstreet Boys in a while. But it's like, although loneliness has always been a friend of mine, and I was studying like although, even though, and I was like, oh, I've always sang this, but I never understood what it was, So you start seeing parallels in what you're studying, and I think that's the key, like you because in class it's everything is so structured, and that's not, a lot of people say, oh, but that's not the real language.
English?
Yeah, but it is. It's just organized in a way for you to understand, and what you need to do.
But it doesn't look natural, right?
Yes, but then when you like the thing and you have contact with the language outside of class, you can combine these two, and that's the moment of, wow, I everything is all connected. That's when you realize
eye-opening experience, right?
Exactly.
Oh. It has always been there, but then you start seeing things.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's another thing too. Like,
everywhere.
I think it takes a moment for you to come to that realization that you actually know the language and that you're learning the language. It's not immediate. It's like I always tell my students when we're learning like the present perfect. Okay, we're looking at the structure and we see some examples, but it's going to take a while for you to internalize it and for it to become natural for you and for you to start using it.
Do you remember when it happened to you?
I think I was about 12. You see, so I started learning when I was 7, and it took all those years for me to finally feel comfortable with it. And I remember I would sing songs in English out loud because before that, I used to listen to the songs, but then I started singing them and articulating the sounds and the words. And also, and I would watch TV shows and I would like get this feeling or I would have this instinct to answer, like, you know, like when they would ask a question, I would, if I were to answer that question, this
You're
is what I would
taking
say.
part in the movie and the show, right? Like, oh.
And or, you know, another thing, I would predict the next word, you know, like, or the answer. Oh, I think that, and I would say it before, and then they would say exactly what I said.
Still, right?
Yeah, something like that, like collocations, right? Yeah, and then that's when I thought, okay, I think I understand this. Another thing was because back then we didn't have the option to take off the subtitles, right? You had to, when you were watching Sony or Warner, you had to have the subtitles.
It was some sort of paper covering it with tape.
Yeah, but I never did that, right? So I would always read the subtitles in Portuguese, and I would be fine with it. But then after a while, I remember I didn't need them anymore. You know, like I realized that I was like, brushing my hair in front of the mirror, and I was listening. I was like, I'm not even looking at the TV. I can understand everything they're saying. So that was a nice thing to
cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
When did you use English for the first time with a foreign speaker?
With a foreign speaker. Well, I remember one day the teacher, my English teacher in English school, invited a Polish. Is it Polish or Polish? Now I always say Polish.
The nationality,
yeah,
Polish.
Polish.
Right?
Okay. Okay. So we can cut that part.
No way.
No way.
No way, Jose.
Yeah,
I'm human.
Yeah. So my teacher invited a Polish person to come to class, and I really liked her English because up until that time, I only had contact with American English. We have a lot because we hear a lot of American English in movies and TV shows, right? And all of that. And that was the first time I heard a different accent. And I remember telling her, I love your accent. I love the way it sounds. I'm really into accents in the sense that I like it, you know, I like paying attention to the different pronunciations and the way people sound differently when they're from different countries, that kind of stuff.
Well, you didn't say a conversation.
All right. So the first time I spoke was just that. I just said, I like your English. I love the way it sounds.
Mesmerized with that.
I was mesmerized.
Don't remember the conversation at all.
That's it. No, and it wasn't a full conversation because we were in class and we got to ask questions. Like the different students got to ask questions. But then, so I think that was the very first time I spoke to a foreign person. But then, after that...
Was she the same age?
No, she was older. She was like an adult, and I was a teen. And then after that, I think it was in the States that I spoke to a foreign person. I think it was in the States. I went
that
to...
you actually had a conversation?
Yeah, I went back when I was, I think, 15 to study for a month. And then that's when I got to use English, because up until that time, I only, I learned all my English in Brazil and watching TV and listening to music. And then that's when I got to practice when I went there for the second time. I went to Florida. And I think the first interaction I had was with a couple who asked me where the gift shop was, because my English school was like in this sports complex, and they asked me, "Oh, where's the gift shop?" And I remember saying, "Oh, the gift shop is next to the pool. Would you like me to take you there?" And I was like, "Yes."
And if you want to buy some other stuff, I can take you there too. Let's keep talking.
Yes. And I even told them, "Oh, you can take a swim at the pool if you want, because it's hot." It was a hot day. It was in Florida in the middle of the summer. And they said, "Oh, no, we have a pool at home, dear. We just want the gift shop." And I was like, "Oh, yes, they do. They have those here."
That's exactly what I imagine. Like you wanted to speak a little more and making up conversation, right? Make up things you could get it going, right?
That's it.
You can take a swim. You can buy some other stuff here. Oh, you have a swimming pool? What about coffee? Would you like to take some coffee? Izabella, I had a great time talking to you. It was awesome. I hope our listeners will be able to learn from your experience, right? And let's have more CACS stories going on here so we can learn more from people's experiences.
Great. Thank you. See you, everybody.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.